You're listening to the Mezzo Guild podcast.
بس أنا لازم أحسه الأول عشان أقوله.
아직 나의 어색한 한국말이 짤따рат하고 지적하진 말아주세요.
Я хочу с тобой серьезно поговорить.
Really get his farragut. No, I can quit this Moldina as a here show.
Language learning made simple. In language learning, listening comprehension is the one thing that you can't fake. It's the one thing that you can't bullshit. Now, it's not that difficult to learn how to speak a language in a very short amount of time, even several weeks. But to acquire an ear for a language and to be able to catch what people are saying actually takes a lot of time and exposure to the target language. People want fast results, and the gimmick peddlers out there are more than happy to offer those fast results for a few bucks. But unfortunately, there's just no such thing when it comes to listening comprehension. You need time, and lots of it. Of the 4 language skills, speaking, listening, reading, and writing, it is my view that listening is the biggest hurdle and the toughest challenge to beat, without a doubt. Now, quite a few years ago, I passed my testing for entry into the Australian Defence Force as a signals operator linguist, and that was in the Air Force. It was something that was a long-term dream of mine, to be able to serve in the armed forces, and I also wanted to put my passion for foreign languages to use, and basically to be paid to learn languages. It was a dream. Now, putting that aside, a few personal reasons I didn't do it. I ended up going off to the Republic of Georgia instead. But the one thing that I learned from that experience is the way that they do their testing. Now, the point I want to make about the testing is that it's very much focused on listening comprehension. The test itself really tests more than anything else your ability to comprehend. For the test, myself and about 30 other people were given a short briefing on an artificial language, so a conlang basically, a military conlang, that the military had designed, and it had its own grammar system and vocabulary. And then we had to listen to recordings of that language and translate them as we heard them. Now, this was a very difficult task, and only myself and 3 other people out of a group of 30 ended up being successful. Even other people in the room who were saying prior to the test, they were very confident. They were confidently saying that they could speak a few languages, they loved languages. They ended up failing the test. Now, obviously, the main reason for the test being focused on listening ability is that the job itself requires listening to and translating a lot of intercepted transmissions. But I also believe that it's because listening comprehension is a major indicator of a person's aptitude for language acquisition. It's a major indicator. Anyone can learn a language, but some people do it better than others for this reason. Now, even though it was quite possible and likely that the Defence Force would require us in the future to be able to communicate, to be able to speak, in other words, the thing that they were most interested in for testing was how well we could listen. A person's real language level is only evident during an unscripted conversation with a native speaker. And there's a straightforward reason for this. The learner might be able to say a lot in their target language, but as soon as the native speaker says something back which warrants a response, it's going to be very obvious whether or not the learner actually understands what's being said. Pretty simple, right? Pretty simple thing. Now, I've seen a lot of polyglot videos on YouTube and various blogs, and all these people claiming to have picked up a language in a matter of weeks or a matter of months. And this is something that the media sensationalizes with, people like Timothy Donor. But, assessment of their levels can only happen in a 2-way natural conversation with a native speaker. Speaking ability can be faked entirely, but listening comprehension can't. And this is why exams like IELTS actually consist of a native speaker having an unscripted conversation with the foreign learner, because this enables the examiners to properly assess their level. It's also why I personally dispense entirely with any approach that says it's all about speaking immediately. Because if that's your sole focus, then you aren't really allowing yourself adequate time to just soak up the language that's around you. Your primary goal is to be understood, rather than to be understood and to understand. You know, that it goes both ways. You need to understand, but you need to be understood, but you also need to understand. Now, some people speak brilliantly, but they have poor comprehension and they get overwhelmed in conversations because they've taken this approach. Now, whenever I recommend tools and resources to people, one of the most important factors that I look for personally is how useful it is as a listening comprehension builder, a listening comprehension tool. That's why I use tools like Glossica. There's a phrasebook alternative called Earworm's Musical Brain Trainer that I promote a lot. These are products that really are about getting you to be able to comprehend and improve your listening. So again, just so you remember it, in finishing this podcast episode, you cannot fake or bullshit listening comprehension. It's not something you can fake. You might not want to hear it, but it takes a lot of time and there are no shortcuts to improving comprehension. Expose yourself daily to target language dialogue. Take some time and just shut up and listen. Just shut up and listen to people speak. Whether it's a product with quality natural audio or a human being, and your comprehension will gradually improve.